Welcome to season 3 premiere of How'd You Like That Movie podcast. I never would have guessed that we have gone this long and this strong. So with no further ado, we're talking movies. We're talking Pearl, starring Mia Goth, David Cornsweet, and Tandy Wright. Written by Mia Goth and Ty West, who also directed the film. Kris, on what more civilized people call bohemian.
I need to be famous.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of How'd You Like That Movie? As Scott said, it is also the first episode of season 3, so woo to us. And we're kicking it off with our Hot Ghouls of Halloween special. So we're going to be talking about Ty West's prequel to X, obviously starring Mia Goth as our bloodthirsty female protagonist. So Scott, take us away.
All right, first, I'm never going to say that title in terms of what you're saying. You're hot, whatever.
Hot Ghouls of Halloween.
Yeah, it just sounds stupid.
It does not. Everybody else likes it except you, so shut your face.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
And it can't be a special because we're technically doing for the whole month of October. So
it could be a special for the month of October. Like when you go to the grocery store and they have a special for the entire month. It is still a special. It is still special. Just like I am still special.
There you go. All right. So with this film.
Hey, before we jump off, do you want to tell the listeners what we were up to last night? And no, it was not kinky or exciting.
Well, I guess you could say it was exciting.
It might have been exciting. Definitely wasn't kinky. So
well, I guess you could have said it was kinky too. But we were at the premiere of Shifted, which is a local produced by a local company. Kris, hit him up with the production company name.
So it was produced and directed, written, everything by local filmmakers over at Fable Forest Films. So if you guys are listening, thanks for having us out. We look forward to them being on the show in the next couple months.
Boom. All right. So in terms of this film, I know normally with
hold on. Why don't you give people a quick background about like how this fits into?
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say. Like normally we don't, with like brand new films, we don't usually spoil much, but we would have to do some spoilers on this one based on X, which was released this year, and this one as well, because this is a prequel to the film X, which was filmed kind of secretly while X was being produced because of COVID-19. So while they're in lockdown, they're like, fuck, we have this, film crew here of Avatar, The Way of Water. And they're like, fuck James Cameron. We're keeping him for an extra 2 weeks and we're just going to film another movie.
And they did.
Yeah. It was greenlit by A24, which to Ty West supplies. And now if you saw X in theaters, upon first release, they did have like a little end credit, which was the trailer to this movie, which we unfortunately, when we went to go watch X, the trailer was taken off. But so in terms of this film, go back, listen to our X film that me and you, I would say I think we could say we raved about that film.
Yes,
right?
We did. And actually I think it's one of our highest downloaded episodes. But it might have to do with the fact that it had sex in the title, and therefore there's a certain group of people out there that are listening to their pornography, and instead they got you and I talking about a movie. Or maybe that's their thing. Or maybe that's their thing.
They're like, nothing turns me on more than Kris masturbating about himself and his production company while talking about a porn movie.
Hey man, gets me hard.
Boner alert.
So yeah, so now if you're going to watch Pearl and you're going for, you know, the same style as X was, where you're going for this, you know, gritty grindhouse like Texas Chainsaw Massacre film that X was, you're going to be extremely disappointed with Pearl.
Because it's exactly not that movie.
No, like this, like it's a choice that Ty West made, and actually I do applaud it that he's basing these films off of the stylized of cinema for the decade that it's staged in. Like this movie is pretty much a fucked up Wizard of Oz, where, you know, instead of the scarecrow wishing he had a brain, he wishes he had a
He had
penis.
a cock. And he welcome again to Scott and Cock on How'd You Like That Movie. It's like your own little segment. Scott Cock.
Boom.
Shock Scott Cock. Yeah, so it's definitely, yes, it's got it's 100% basically shot to look like Technicolor. And that vibrant, fuzzy, popping color. Like Technicolor. Yeah. I mean, if you don't know what Technicolor is, like you said, watch The Wizard of Oz. That is how this film is from an aesthetic point of view, it looks.
Yeah, it looks like there's a lot of on location filming, but it looks like half of it as well. It looks like it was filmed in a on stage, like on a production company, to make it like exactly look like these 1920s films. And the other choice I thought was super interesting is you know, by putting this film in the 20s, and while you're having it being, you know, filmed during a COVID pandemic, they're technically basing it when the Spanish flu is hitting, in which people were walking around with cloth masks anyway. So that way, you know, with all these extras have to be masked up, it makes sense, right?
Yeah, and it looked really cool because, like, also those old school cloth masks kind of tied around the nose, they're creepy. Like there's definitely like a creepy aesthetic that goes to that turn of the century, like 1918, 1919 kind of COVID precaution, right? I mean, it wasn't COVID, but it's Spanish flu, right? So
correct. So yeah, so in terms of that, like visually, I love this movie. Like the way he presented it, everything like that. I do have issue with the story itself, and I think it's only because, you know, this is the origin story of Pearl, right? And you're watching X and you're like, this is the most fucked up, not only woman, but couple, because Harold was helping in X, right? Like spoilers, you know, in X, you technically find out that yes, he would kidnap these men, and so she would be, you know, technically have their way with them, and then he would castrate them and kill them.
Yeah,
but
and he's been doing this for a while. So
yeah, he's been doing it for a while. But like, once Harold becomes a character, or once you physically see him in the real world, like him actually not like a dream or anything like that, you're like, at what point did he not turn around and run? Because it made no sense, like in terms of
remember, and you're talking about Pearl, you're talking about like in the film Pearl, when Harold finally shows up and kind of sees what's going on, instead of just being like, peace, I'm fucking out of here.
We could have been a good couple. We could have had something special, but you one crazy ass bitch.
Yeah, because spoilers, that's the end of the movie, right? Like he shows up, she says hi to him, like, or she's like, oh, I'm glad you're back, or whatever the fuck it was, and then all of a sudden it's credits, and it has like the creepy, like her just trying to maintain like a smile for the whole fucking end credits. Where good job on fucking Mia Goth for that one. I can almost see the tears were real on that one.
Yeah, and so that was like one of my big, I agree with you. One of my big issues with this film is So I understand, like you said, you're developing an origin story, so you need a little more time, right? Like you're not probably going to just jump into the like murder. It isn't about porn, so there's not as much sex, but we are told in X, like Pearl, like you said, has this like weird sex fetish, whatever you want to call it. She definitely has like a sex drive, and you do see that start to come about because her husband is away at the First World War. This is where the whole the scarecrow that you're talking about fits in. But that was only good for so long, like this like lead up. And you're sort of like, okay, like I'm still here to watch a slasher film. Let's get to the slashy. As well, that whole stuff about Harold, you're going into Pearl. You're like, okay, I have these questions from X. I would like to have some of those questions answered. And a lot of them were around the dynamic between her and Harold. And I understand, like, you would have to cover more decades in order to like answer all the questions, but having him just show up at the end, it's like, well, because for those that don't know, so A24 has already greenlit the third film, Maxine, which then jumps back forward into and becomes a sequel to X in 1985. So I don't know how you can tell any more of the Pearl story because you can't use flashbacks. I mean, maybe there is a way to use flashbacks, but we're not even talking about Pearl anymore, right? We're talking about Maxine, who is a totally different person, and she's not related to Pearl. So I don't know how we're ever going to get that interaction between Pearl and Harold fleshed out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that was kind of like, and I think because I was so enthralled with X and the story of X, like, and I probably, I went in to this movie with way more like higher expectations because I was thinking this is going to be, set in the 1920s, whatever, but this is going to be a slasher Bonnie and Clyde, right? Where it's technically, natural born killers, but now in a horror movie where it's this couple where, she seduces the men, she fucks the men and he's slicey dices, right? Or she's slicey dices, but
and
also
he deals with like the cleanup basically, or
exactly. Yeah, and in X as well, like you can like Pearl was technically bi-curious, right? Like you could tell that it didn't look like it mattered in terms of really gender, right? She just liked touching people and being touched and wanted to fuck, right? And with this one, you don't really see that either, right? Like you see her getting watching the porn that the projectionist puts on, and you could tell that it intrigued her. But I think that was more, to kind of tie the porn theme from X kind of back to here, where now she was at the epicenter of when porn was first being introduced, right?
Yeah.
And that was, but I don't know, I think stylized great, but yeah, I and could be because they only really had like I don't know how many drafts, but I'm guessing if this movie was being made at the same time X was, because of COVID, they probably didn't really have a lot of time either to draft it out. It's just pretty much, okay, we have this set of money, we have these sets because these sets are what's here, we just gotta like pull something out of here.
Yeah, and that's quite possible. Like I agree with you. It would have been kind of cool to see more time elapse, right? Like you could like do the the beginning origin story in the first half of the film, have her husband come home sooner, and then we could almost like kind of skip down the road. We could hit a couple decades of them kind of doing their thing, killing people, all the deviant sex stuff or whatever, and it could have been just 100% like a locations and money and time issue. Mia Goth is one of the writers on this film, and I believe she's going to be one of the writers on Maxine as well.
Yeah, this is her first writing and I think producing credit is on this one. Like in it's something, I guess, well, you would know more, but like you don't really see, I don't think you really see much where, you know, Ty West was using Mia in terms of, you know, you played this character, like what do you think kind of this backstory is, right? And then them over Zoom kind of building the story together, in which, you know, based on whatever my performance or what I think was going on here, this is what I think she was doing here and here, right?
Well, yeah, Pearl, I believe, was like they weren't even 100% sure they were going to use like make a film out of it originally. They thought it could just be like backstory for the actor, right? Just like this is kind of who the person is and stuff like that. Have you watched other Ty West films other than X?
Yeah, we went over this when we watched X. So yeah, go back, re-listen to that podcast when Kris asked me the exact same answer and or question, and you can listen to my answer. The only one I saw of his was, I think it was the sequel to Cabin Fever. Yeah, that's the only one I've seen. I have his House of the Devil on my queue to like watch, but I haven't actually pulled it up yet to watch it.
So I mean, he works with the same DOP, Elliot Rocket, the Innkeeper, Cabin Fever 2, the House of the Devil. I mean, the one thing I'll give Ty West credit for is like, this is his genre. Like his TV stuff that he's done, his short films, his feature films, it's all in the same vein. It's not like he did a rom-com and then he did this, and like, he's a horror guy. He clearly likes cinema and he likes working in this genre specifically. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually, because I think we were having this discussion yesterday when we were watching after the shifted movie, and we're at the after party where you made the comment where like, you know, I want to see more Grindhouse, like I want to see titties and killing, right? And if Maxine is being set in 1985,
that's what we're gonna see.
That's the genre, because that's your Friday the 13th, that's your fucking sorority house massacres, like,
and your porn industry at that time is like,
that's your deep throat
overtime, right?
And
no, deep throat 70s, buddy. Fucking get your porn history right. This is like,
I apologize. Is it on your queue too? do you have the poster up? But I'm saying like after Deep Throat, that's when it became more pop culture. It was more ingrained in the 80s.
Well, and because home video is you can just pump this stuff out, right? And this is something that comes up in kind of like Boogie Nights, right? That transition from pornographic film houses to just like run and gun, shoot the sex, get it out there. It doesn't even have to be fucking good. Fake boobs and like putting things everywhere. And I mean, so it'd be interesting if he's going to go again and like, does Maxine become like Pearl, like age her again, right? And do we do?
Oh shit, she'd only be 10 years older.
Well, I mean, she doesn't have to go quite that old, but I mean, you could get into the internet age, because that is the streaming, right? Like VHS did something to the industry, both regular film and adult film, and then streaming and direct, video on demand did another thing for the pornographic industry, as well as shifting what was going on in the conventional film industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. But again, it's already been said. It's been set to 1985, so I don't think it's going to be a 10-year period. It's probably going to be a weekend.
I mean, another movie. You could do another movie.
Make this like turn technically X into the next Saw franchise, where one pumps every year and it's about a different decade. I get what you're saying. Let's just see how the third one does, and then we'll go from there.
So they shot Pearl on a $1 million budget, and it's already done 7.7 million in the box office. So I'm sure Ty West and A24 are happy. I mean, like, as we've discussed, let's say $1 million, another $1 million because they did do a pretty decent promotional campaign. They're still in the black, man.
Yeah. Well, like, again, we were talking about this yesterday. Like, horror is the one genre, I think, that you can get away with low budgets but high returns.
Absolutely. If you do it right.
If you do it right. Correct.
So
Wow.
just to compare though, X was made also for $1 million, $14.5 million at the box office.
Damn!
Again, you're not counting rental sales or anything like that.
That's right. Like once it got onto video on demand, like we never know what those numbers were, right? So
And I think these are films that kind of, not market to it, but are designed for it as well, right? That's why they're $1 million budgets. You just throw them in the theater, see what you can make back. If you're back in the block, that's great. But it like old like VHSs and DVDs, like technically these would have been the movies that you would just been at your Blockbuster walking around like, fuck, look at that cover, I'm just gonna grab that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And again, because he does really well with the aesthetic, you're right. Like you could be just like picking through the boxes and being like, well, that looks all right. And you'd read the back, right? Like, Sexy Time Massacre. You're like, done. Sounds good.
You had me at time.
Let's go!
I didn't want to say this, but Candy Wright, who plays Pearl's mother, did you know what her relation to the film X was?
No, I did not.
She was the intimacy coordinator on X. So technically, she was like a mom where she was talking birds and the bees to Mia Goth while she was riding Kitty Cuddy. Like,
Really?
You can grab this, you can grab that, right? But
because she's actually like a pretty big actor in New Zealand. Like she's like she's got like multiple TV series under her belt. I mean, she was in Jack the Giant Slayer. I don't know how big her actual role was, but she does a show called Cremere. She does another one called 800 Words and Nothing Trivial, all New Zealand productions. I was shocked that she pulls off that German accent so well. Like I don't know what her background. I know she was born in like Nambia or something like that.
I'm glad you said that. She learned Germany while filming.
German. She learned German.
Yes, she learned German.
I learned Germany.
Oh, guten Tag. Would you care for a bite of my Fingerstrasse bar? I also have a bag of marzipan joy-joys.
But no, yeah, she learned German while filming. And she became obviously like yourself, but even the German crew members were so convinced that she already knew German prior because of her accent and her
So she basically learned German so she knew the vocabulary, or not the vocabulary, the grammar, in order to like make her English accented, her German accented English better. Like make it more authentic. That's a hardcore devotion to a role, man. I love it.
Like I was impressed too when I was looking it up. But
yeah, I honestly thought she was a German actor. Like I thought that they had just cast, but it makes sense because they were stuck in New Zealand during COVID, so they would have had to pull from. Yeah, that's super impressive, man. So my quote today is from Derek Smith from Slant Magazine. Pearl is ultimately an empty exercise in style masquerading as character study. And as fantastic as Mia Goth is, her performance mostly succeeds in making Ty West's homage just a little bit easier to stomach. And she does do a fantastic job. Like she's a great actor. She pulls off her role really well. I mean, it's good that he let her, or they work together on the script. But yeah, it's kind of boring for a lot of it. And even the kills, I'll be honest, the kills were not overly impressive.
No, but I would say this one was more of a slow burn too, right? Like X also was a slow burn where it was, you spent the first 45 minutes just with the cast learning like these porn characters, their motivations, iterations, and their relationships to one another. And then the last 50 minutes was like the one by one, slasher by numbers where, this one's getting chopped off, this one's getting eaten or whatever.
Yeah.
This one was, I think, because it was such a small cast too, right? Like give or take, I think there's only like 5 people in this film.
Yeah, basically. I mean,
right?
Outside some background when they're in the town, you know what I mean?
No, but I mean like in terms of characters, right? There's only really, I think 5, which was like Pearl, her parents,
Projectionist, yep.
the projectionist, the sister-in-law, and
And then
then
Hank.
Harold. So
Harold, yeah.
6. So 6 people, and yeah, so you already knew technically 2 of the people that are already going to get chopped, or not chopped, but we're going to meet their demise, right? And you didn't really get to spend a lot of time with the other characters because it was 100% focused on Pearl, that you really didn't care about anybody else. Like they were just.
But you could still do some like really interesting graphic murders, because again, you've slow burned up basically up until the end. Okay, so let's get fucking crazy with the special effects, because I mean, one of the things that I loved about X, the original, was basically that first kill, and again, I don't want to give too much away, but was so violent, and the camera spent so much time just sitting there. I was like, okay, this is we're in for like a treat here. And I just felt like they were all kind of like mediocre kills for a slasher. Like, remember, it's a slasher, it's not a drama. Like,
but
you still need to kill people
again,
in an effective, violent way.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but again, but using the choice, like, and you know, if we ever get an opportunity to talk to Ty West, we can see which one of us is right on this.
You mean if he gets the opportunity to talk to us?
Okay. Sure. But if you're going stylized based on the decade, name one fucking horror movie in the 20s that shows you blood. Like this is your Universal Monsters, right? Where the horror was more in the anticipation of.
I would say this is probably closer to like what, Nosferatu.
No,
I think this is what, 1912 or something like that.
No, this was in the 1920s.
It's 1918 is actually when it's set. I didn't correct you because I didn't want to embarrass you in front of our audience. But it's 2 years before that. And when did Nosferatu's come out?
Let's see. When did?
I'm sure our producer can look it up. You can keep talking, Scott.
Yeah, Universal's Dracula was 1921, I think. Okay. Hold on. I need my glasses.
Yeah,
sorry, 1931. 1931.
So only like fucking a 13-year difference, right? So
yeah, but Nosferatu also, but Nosferatu's silent film. Okay, I get it. So yeah,
Nosferatu is 1922.
So it's
correct. Actually closer. Yeah, of course I'm fucking. I'm off to them.
But that one as well is you don't really see blood or anything. It's more shadows and it's more like off.
So what you're saying is he actually wanted to, even for the graphic violence,
it's based off of that decade, right? So that's what I'm saying.
But then he's got too much, because then you still see more than you would have seen in a film in 1918. You know what I mean? Like if you're
I would say there's only one scene that would have been more.
Which one's that?
Or are we going to do spoilers? So, okay, we'll do spoilers. So we're going to count to 10, wait 30 seconds.
We're going to count to fucking 5 because we've already talked about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, spoiler.
It's when she chops up the sister-in-law and feeds it to the.
Oh, that is good. See, that's good. That's like, so if you're able to do that level of violence, I want them all like that, because yes. And again, this camera does the same thing. Like you're seeing that axe come down and it's just like, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah. And then she feeds it to the alligator. And then, she had then you had kind of the homage to Psycho, where the projectionist was in the car and she just lets the car go into the water and the car slowly just gets swallowed by the lake, like in how they were hiding the first kill in Psycho. Yeah, how Norman Bates put it in the lake, the car.
You mean Janet Leigh?
What?
Do you like Janet Leigh's character?
Yeah.
So
you kind of had that where it's more, the horror's not in the act. The horror is more in the anticipation, right? Because they did play a little bit on words when she was having the confrontation with her mom, and then spoilers, 3, 2, 1. where you see her masturbating on top of the scarecrow, and the mom's like, I know what you do at night, you think you're hiding it, and you're just thinking, because in both films, the parents of the I guess Pearl's the protagonist in this film, but Maxine and Pearl, they're very devout Christians.
Yes.
And you're thinking she's talking about the masturbating until the end, when they have like that 10-minute monologue that Pearl does where she's just letting everything out, and you find out she's been slowly killing the animals because she's enjoying watching them die. And that's what the mom was talking about. Like, the mom knew that she was slowly,
like sneaking out to like kill animals.
Yeah, becoming a serial killer.
It's got an 89% from the critics, 82 from the audience, which I'm not surprised. I mean, I think most of the people going to see this are people who have seen X, and they're wanting to see more of that story. Do you recommend it? Like, and who do you recommend it to, Scott?
Yeah, I think it is. It is an entertaining film. It is a slow burn, so keeping that. But I think in terms of this celebration of early cinema, it is done really well, and it is beautiful to watch, right? And listen, if you have the opportunity to go watch this in theaters where there's only one other fucker in front of you for a whole movie, so it's just two people, throw fucking popcorn or Skittles at that guy, because that guy is a fucking asshole, putting his feet up on the seats, acting like he's fucking De Niro and Cape Fear, making comments like just because he's thinks he's the only guy in that theater. Like, fuck. Well,
because you were the only other guy, and I don't give a fuck what you think. So it's got an hour and 42-minute running time. Are you happy with the pacing other than the stuff we talked about? Like, would you have made it shorter or anything like that?
Like it wasn't. I would say this was kind of in the sweet spot. Like, you could like trim a little bit, but you don't really need to if you don't have to, right? Like, there's only so much they could have added or taken away, right? Like, because casting was so small that I think it worked out pretty well in terms of runtime. I know yourself, you're probably like, I would have her masturbate on top of the scarecrow for another 3 minutes, because listen, no woman gets off that quickly.
if I only had a penis. On the topic of Cape Fear, so Martin Scorsese, he did a little interview for Variety magazine, and he said that this film made it difficult for him to sleep. Now, come on, Marty. Like, if that's fucking true, you need to spend some more time with the horror genre, because like, this ain't even fucking close to being that disturbing. Like, there's a lot of,
and this is coming from the guy, I was gonna say, from Scorsese. Like, what was that fucking short film that he did where the guy just technically is shaving his face off?
Oh, isn't that like The Big Shave?
Yeah,
that he did in film school, and you just watch this guy like cut his face open.
Yeah,
that was way more disturbing than this film.
Exactly. But
I would say if you can see it in the theater and you're kind of like a film person, go check it out. Throw Skittles at the guy behind you because he's a fucking prick. But if you wait and watch it on video demand, I think you're going to be fine.
Yeah,
like I said, it looks really good. Just go into it with the fact that it is a totally different kind of film, and I think you won't be let down.
Exactly. I 100% agree, because like the way this movie is shot, like, it's shot for the big screen, but it's shot well enough that you're going to enjoy it at home too, right? Like, it is the perfect blend of what technically a horror movie should be, right?
Needs more killing though.
Just wait till Maxine. It's going to be like 30 people. It's like, I'm going to chop boobs off. I'm going to chop penises off. And that is our wrap for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. If you want to get a hold of us, reach us at the www.howdyoulikethatmovie.com.
Well, that was an interesting place to stop, Scott. Jesus. Chop penises off. Dead silence. Scott. Yeah, man. You know what? It was. It's weird when we go to the movies, essentially not together, but in the same space, and then not being able to talk about the movie because we have the show to do.
Yeah, it is weird though, like going to the theaters, like kind of with you, and then like you start walking, I'm like trying to power walk in front of you, but because we're like, we can't talk about this now, we have to wait 4 days before we
and then we were out for an entire evening talking about
and we're like we
films,
can't,
and we can't talk about it. Well, luckily we got to talk about somebody else's film. So.
Exactly, it worked out very well.
Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.